Hey everybody, welcome to Raptors In The Kitchen. It's Tuesday the 19th of August. Tuesday 19th of August 2014. I'm your host Alan Kerr, joined by Paul Faulkner.
Hello there, Mr. Kerr.
That rhymes.
Yeah, there you go.
Like
New intro.
Like a good rhyming intro. Paco Rodriguez is also here.
How's it going?
It's going well. I feel like we're going to rush through this because we're starting a bit late. Laura's not here. There's not an awful lot of news to talk about. Maybe
Do you want to talk about why Laura's not here?
She fucking slept in. He texted us like 15 minutes after we were supposed to start. She was like, hey, I just woke up from a nap. Have a good show.
At 7 o'clock at night, she slept in.
Tommy Bass is also here.
I think I'm part of the reason we're late as well, because I was finishing Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah, also Rangers are playing at Ibrox and the traffic was a bit bad and there was no White Park.
Yeah.
But yeah, you think Bioshock Infinite, Tommy? I know this is a movie podcast, and just to kind of tease you, later on we'll have reviews of the Expendables 3 and Hector and Search for Happiness, and plus Paul's going to talk about Devil with Blood, which you watched for the first time.
Yeah.
The Bioshock Infinite, Tommy?
Yes.
Try and talk about it for
You finished it about
an hour.
You finished it about an hour ago.
Yeah.
For all those who don't know, Bioshock Infinite is a video game which you play on consoles.
Well, yeah, like
PCs.
yeah.
I'm with you so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big gamer. Like, I used to be, but like way back in the day with the Master System Mega Drive, but I had to give it up because I used to get really annoyed and I had to give it up, man, because I used to break stuff and cry when out of frustration. But there's a couple of games that have been kind of like I live with Paco, so I mean he plays games like all the time. So it was like The Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite were like the games of 2013, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
it's a rarity where you get two such amazing games. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean those two, along with kind of GTA 5, are kind of like the full stop, the underline on the kind of 360 PS3 generation.
I would also add The Walking Dead to that.
I feel that that kind of feels like it's kind of breaking new ground though. Like it's not only kind of the end of that generation, but kind of like this is where a whole new kind of field of games are going. Yeah. We can talk about that.
But yeah, no, it was it. So I figured, right, well, I'll probably play both these games, just to see what the hype is about. And like I played The Last of Us, and again, it was that whole thing. Like, you know, Edge magazine gave it a 10 out of 10. Never happens with games. It was just revolutionary and a game changer, if you will. So I was like, Paco had nothing but praise for it. And I remember playing it, and then I finished at like 4 in the morning, and I texted a bunch of people because I was just fucking like blown away about how good it was, and I was just like, this is probably the best game ever made. I've never cared so much about characters and whatever. So I mean, I love The Last of Us, and I still like just hold it in such a high regard. I mean, really, Streets of Rage 2 is probably my favorite game ever made. But
Hey, that's fine.
But if we're gonna talk about like The Last of Us overall, is like if Last of Us like the Shawshank Redemption of games. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, man, it's like probably the best game ever made.
Does that mean you think that The Shawshank Redemption is the best movie?
It's more. I use Shawshank. Well, it's up there, but I use that more because that's like the number one of the top 200.
Shawshank's one of those films where if someone said that was their favourite film, if someone said that was their favourite film or they thought that was the best film, you wouldn't argue with it. You'd be like, fair enough.
Yeah, it's like Shawshank Redemption is just universally liked. I don't think I've met MD that dislikes it, and if they do, they're the fucking moron.
Do you think there is like a list of like a short list of films where it's like these are films that are acceptable as being someone's favourite film?
Definitely, absolutely.
I think there's a lot of those.
Yeah, you'll get like.
What's more interesting is the list of films which sort of people say are their favourite films when they don't really know a lot about films.
Mm-hmm.
The Godfather's probably the number one.
Yeah, that kind of like, oh, right, great, really.
Yeah, but
Godfather is great, but
Yeah,
you know,
not the same
a lot of people will
thing.
fall back on
I
that.
would disagree. But we know that already. Yeah.
No, but yeah, I would say like so. I would put that there. So I thought, right, well, Bioshock Infinite, that's the other game. Let's give it a shot. And yeah, I played it, and I was like, okay, this is fine. Again, I think this is because I had The Last of Us in mind. I was like, oh, God, I'm just not engaged with these bloody characters. I don't care about them as much. And as it went on, I was like, yeah, this fucking world. I was like, yeah, what the fuck's going on? And I was like, okay, right. And then again, I'll shoot a bunch of folk, and there's a story unwinding here. And about 3/4 into the game, I started getting really invested in the story, and I thought it had a really, really good ending. I mean, we talked about it on the way here, and I was like, this was excellent. But I just thought that, in terms of a game, I thought it was easy. It had a couple of difficult bits, but overall, I was like, I don't feel as tense or whatever. I thought it was quite repetitive. I mean, again, we're going to talk about, if I use The Last of Us as an example, kind of the same thing. There's times where The Last of Us felt repetitive, but I was so absolutely invested in the story and these characters that I felt like, you know, if I died, I was letting them down as well as myself. With Bioshock Infinite, it was only really towards the end that I was like, man, I'm getting really invested in this story.
I find it difficult to believe that you didn't just like fucking love Elizabeth from like.
No, like I said to you, like when I was playing it, Elizabeth is a really good character in the sense that like she's such an innocent when you first meet her. It's like, oh, and she's just full of wonderment and full of adventure, and she's been trapped in this tower all this time, and she almost looks like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, where she kind of has that Disney, I don't want to say princess look about her, but you know, it's just very likable.
Well, it is like when you think about it, it's kind of like a Disney princess story where like she is literally trapped in
it. Yeah, I suppose and Booker's supposed to be the White Knight and all that. Yeah, but like her story arc was quite interesting. But I think it's because as well, because it is a first-person shooter, you don't get to see a lot of cutscenes where you see them interacting. And with Booker, it's very much like he's like, right, let's go this way, or come and pick this lock, and he doesn't engage in as much conversations and with her. And it wasn't until the end I kind of got why that was, because a lot of that has to do with how the actual story ends.
Well, yeah, well, Bioshock Infinite is a lot more. It's a lot more. It wears the fact that it is a game on its sleeve and kind of plays to those kind of tropes and plays to those.
Yeah, like one of the biggest kind of linking into Tommy's problem a little bit of the kind of interactions where you'd have sort of cutscene, I suppose, conversation where it'd be like, oh, here's a really big emotional revelation, and Elizabeth's going through something massive. Back to gameplay. Here's your health kit, and it was just like, that's one of the jarring kind of moments. Which
at the same time, that was always awesome. You're like, man, when you first encounter her, you're like, oh, here we go. It's going to be like a escort mission where I need to look after this fucking clown AI character like the entire game. And it's like
I was going to the corner and occasionally just.
It tells you at the start, you know, she can look after herself. You don't have to worry about it. You're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
and she actually starts helping you. It's like, yeah, this is good.
Like, it's no surprise that like these two games are kind of the ones that have got you to take notice of them, because like the reason they are kind of so stand out is because they put a good, well told story first, like ahead of like, you know, like a new game mechanic or amazing graphics or anything like that. The core thing is like these characters in this story and the way it's told.
Well, Elizabeth and Booker though, their story, it took me a while to get engaged in it. But I don't know. Again, as I said, it's like if we're talking about The Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite starts off all right, whereas The Last of Us, like the first 15 minutes, you're just like, holy fucking shit, what just happened there? I am super invested.
Yeah, well, Bioshock Infinite is, I guess, more comparable to like Inception, where you kind of get to the end of it and you're like fuck, that's like kind of overwhelming.
Yeah,
that's you think about the themes and like
it's about ideas,
the subtlety of everything. Yeah. Whereas The Last of Us is very much these two people and their character story. And obviously Elizabeth is a great character and stuff as well.
Yeah, but
it's more about the greater world.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there wasn't much of Booker apart from like when like come the end of the game, you're like, oh wow, man, there's actually loads about this, and I can understand now why a lot of it you don't find out a lot about Booker until towards the end, because it makes sense in terms of what the whole story's about. But all in all, I thought Bioshock Infinite was a really good game. It was more the end I think got me. In terms of the story, but it lived up to the hype. But again, I would ultimately say, if someone was to say what's the better game, I was like, it's The Last of Us, hands down.
Have you played enough games to actually have a top 5 games?
A top 5 games?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like as I said, but it was more like, you know, Master System, Mega. Like when I say a bunch of games, it'll be, oh yeah, that was on the Mega Drive, or that was on the N64, or that was because it was the N64 and PlayStation 1. I mean, I had a PlayStation 2, but I didn't play as many games on it. I think.
So like when I first met you, the game that you used to talk about a lot, and the only game I ever saw you play before we lived together was Black.
Yeah, because on PS2 I was like, man, Black's good.
So weird one.
No, Black was good. It was just the problem with like
destructible environments.
I just wasn't into my games as such. I mean, like with PS, like I remember like the reason I got a PS2 was because GTA 3 was fucking awesome, and I was like, I want to buy this because I love this game, and my friend had it, and I was like, right, I'll need this. And it's really funny because like I remember with the N64, you play like WrestleMania 2000, and you're like, that'll never get as good. We've reached the peak of technology, and then you look at it's like, my god, look at that. I mean, it's like GoldenEye. That's always an amazing game for me. Streets of Rage 2, Road Rash. You know, on the Mega Drive. A lot of it is Mega Drive, Master System, SNES.
If someone asked you your top 5 films, you named a bunch of films from the late 80s and early 90s, no one would bat an eye at that.
Yeah. No, it's
even like Road Rash is like the kind of the equivalent of just being like an 80s action movie or a game in it.
Like Modern Warfare 2 was again a game. That was the first time I played a proper game. I think on the PS3, like ever. Like
what a game!
No, that's what I'm saying. Again, it was more just there was this whole chat about it, and I remember you talking about it. And me and you are like big fans of 24 and like action movies and more movies than that. And just playing it was like, holy shit, this is a great story. I'm really invested. I've never seen anything like this in terms of this kind of game. And our friend was saying how it was a lovely, beautiful summer's day, and he bought Modern Warfare 2, and he just got back to the house, and everybody's like, man, come out to the park, get yourself a wee like a caddy out, and let's all enjoy it because it's the first sunny day and we're all off. And he's like, no. And then he's like, yeah, man, I got home, I shut the curtains, and I just put on Modern Warfare 2 from start to finish, and then the first thing I did after it was I just played it again because I fucking couldn't believe it.
Like Call of Duty still has that for me, man. Like I remember last November when Call of Duty Ghosts came out, and it was on a Monday that I got it because we were doing the podcast that day. But like I woke up, put in Call of Duty Ghosts, and played it from start to finish. Then did the podcast. And was like, that was a fucking good day. It was like, it was like 7 hours of just being absolutely fucking amazed, like at all the shit that was blowing up about me, and getting to fly in space and being a dog and killing people.
Yeah,
it was great fun.
I took a week off work from Mass Effect 3 and just did nothing but play it. And it was the best week of my life. It was great.
Yeah, but that's why we were a bit late, was because I was playing Bioshock Infinite. But yeah, that was it.
Paul, how's your week been?
I can't complain. I don't think anything particularly exciting has happened. Been working, continuing. That's like, unfortunately, until I go back to college, that's really the big thing. I'm trying to get in as much work as possible to earn those dollars.
And like, we won't talk about it just yet, but was there a reason you watched There Will Be Blood?
Yes, another a film podcast that I listened to, they had their 500 episode maybe, and they did like a big live show, and they did like they usually do a kind of top 5 as Raptors did many moons ago, and they did like the top 5 films of their era of the 9 years that they've kind of been in existence. What's the best film that came out during it? And between the 4 or 5 people that they had Ryan Johnson on to do an interview because they were like big backers of him way back when Brick first came out and stuff. And There Will Be Blood just kept coming up. No Country Road, like all the kind of. I mean, it was a lot of the usual films that you'd expect from the past 9 years. And just There Will Be Blood really stood out as one which I just hadn't put the effort into watching. I've owned it for years, and I've never it's
a commitment in that film.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like I have to like sit there and be like, I am going to do something serious. I'm going to be epic. I'm going to put on a suit and this. And so just I ended up like kind of saying, okay, I want to try and watch it. And I wasn't going to go out. I needed to do a bunch of washing in the house, which is boring. But I got up first thing in the morning, stuck that on, and just sat down and did There Will Be Blood.
How drained were you when it finished?
It's weird to have gone in knowing like the milkshake reference but not understanding it at all. Like that's what people came out talking about. And I did a Paco where for the first maybe 20 minutes I was just like, oh, like who's Daniel Day-Lewis? When's he going to turn up in it? But like once
like the first 20 minutes of that movie are like particularly memorable though because
there's no dialogue.
There's no dialogue.
Yeah, nothing at all.
We can get into a full discussion of There Will Be Blood later on.
But it was like actually quite simple. I mean, No Country for Old Men came out the same year as it, and there were like a lot of comparisons.
I prefer No Country for Old Men.
I prefer There Will Be Blood.
The ending of No Country for Old Men like really stands out as like, wait, that's it?
Yeah.
And the exact same where it was just like, what, like...
Yeah, that weird, like,
something more.
That pure forward music happens, like, what?
Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy, because I started off and I was kind of a bit like, what is this, like, what everyone says it is, and then we'll come to it later on, but the fire really hits, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is spectacular.
What time did you watch it at?
I mean, we're talking like maybe 10 in the morning.
Fucking.
See, I got up and I just.
See, I did the opposite, which was a bad idea, but I still absolutely enjoyed it. Where a friend got it for me for my birthday, and I just sitting there for a while, and then I came back from like a 8-9 hour shift. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, I'm gonna stick this on. And by the end of it, I was so fucking knackered. I was shattered anyway. But it was just watching it. I was like, what a fucking movie, but my god, I'm going to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Like I saw it in possibly the worst circumstance. This like Mags.
It was like some kind of Will Ferrell comedy. He turned up really drunk and.
Mags, if you're watching, you're fucking great, mate. You're awesome. But yeah, like we were kind of on a date. And then went to watch that, and just like after it was like, what do you want to do? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Yeah, I was quite glad to have done it by myself. That felt kind of nice, not to have like to look at anybody else afterwards.
It's like such a hard-going movie. It's just like it's for me like it's really similar to Requiem for a Dream. It's like there's no right time to watch that film.
Yeah,
it's like it's a fucking great movie. Just there's no such thing as a good time to put on.
But like Alan said, we'll get to that in a wee bit. So what's on the agenda?
Well, let's first of all ask Paco who's in it.
I went to Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival.
Oh yeah.
For a day of it. Looks like you look like that's like.
You don't seem like the kind of person who would like the Fringe Festival.
Why did you say that?
I
There's
don't
a
know.
lot at the Fringe.
Like it's all comedy and music. Why would I
Oh
not
no,
like-
yeah, right. I was sorry. When I think of the Fringe Festival, I just think of like
Street theatre.
yeah, street theatre people and like
Oh fuck that noise.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, oh, there was
I forget there's a lot more to the
To
Fringe.
be fair, there was like walking up the Royal Mile, you got handed like 5 million flyers for like
Yeah.
fucking crap pantomimes and stuff, and it's like, nah, I'm not up for any of that noise. Craig Balnave I was with also was not up for that shit either. But yeah, like, we saw like a few stand-up comedy routines. Like we went to like a blues bar for a bit, and then for the end of the night, we went to like a kind of comedy show, like by a guy called Aidan Goetzel or something like that. Like it was called 11 Movies to Happiness, and it was like
Yeah, I saw that advertised.
yeah, this guy discussing like the 11 movies that make him happy in his life and all relate to like kind of significant moments in his life and stuff like that. And it was just like a really good informal kind of funny chat with like a geek. It was like a room full of people. It was good.
That's cool.
It was a long day though. Like as Craig will no doubt tell you next time you see him or whatever if you ask. Like I was ready for my bed at like 5 o'clock when we were there until midnight.
Oh wow, how many shows did you fit in?
Like 3 different comedy shows and the music, the blues day.
Excellent.
So it was quite packed.
Good, yeah,
It was
absolutely.
good.
Were they all good, or was there some
No,
where
like-
they were like,
like-
man,
They
think they're funny, and their friends have told them they're funny, but they're not funny.
the last guy, like the 11 Movies of Happiness one, was good, and the kind of more professional kind of guy who worked at the stand, like I can't remember his name, was like Andy something. I can't remember his surname. Like he's like a Jewish satirical.
Zoltzman.
That's one.
That, holy shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like he was really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like you could tell, like I said to you before, Tommy, like as soon as he started speaking, like just from his demeanour, and you could just tell that he was good.
A natural
Straight away.
performer.
Yeah. But like the first one we went to was in like a place called Jekyll and Hyde, and it was like 5 different people, and like some of them were kind of funny sometimes, but for the most part it was just bad. Like really, like you're kind of wondering why the fuck they're up there like at all. Like,
So see, like the guy who was doing the 10 movies thing, like
11 movies.
sorry, 11 movies. Were you like, as a film fan, just being like,
Criticising or.
oh, I've seen that movie. Like,
I was totally expecting to be like that. And like the first movie he put up on the screen was like, this is like my comfort movie. If like I'm feeling bad, this is a movie I'll stick on. And it was the Avengers, and I was like, fucking awesome. Like like how can anyone complain with that? And then like for like 5 or 6 movies after that, like I like to think I know a fair bit about movies. There's like never seen that movie, never even heard of that one, never seen this movie. It's like things like there's ones that obviously I've heard of but I haven't seen. Like Get Carter and Magnificent Seven were 2 of the films that like he picked as being like his all-time favourites, and like I've just never seen them. But then there was like a French one that like I can't even remember the name of, and just a couple other ones where I was like I maybe should have seen that, but I just haven't. And it was good. Like he did notice me though. Like at one point he put up the original Christopher Reeve Superman as one of his films, and I just fucking shook my head. Like, he noticed me at the other end of the room. He was like, "There's a man at the back shaking his head. Well, you don't like Superman?" And I was like, "I fucking hated Superman." And like I explained why. It was like the whole like as soon as he fucking reversed time by flying around the earth the wrong way, I was completely done with anything else that happened in that movie. And he was like, "Oh, well, that is actually fair enough." But yeah, it was like it was really interesting.
That's nice one.
Like I'm one of those people, like as anyone who knows me, mate, already know that like I kind of like to to be heard. Like you know, like so
That's a really polite way of putting it.
there's like a lot of
No.
times, yeah, like believe it or not, Tommy, you know, little shiny. And he says a lot of times where like I really wanted to kind of just say stuff, but I was like, no, this isn't the podcast. And I just keep quiet. Like I still came out with like one or two things, but like never. I wouldn't say I echoed at all, but I did make a few comments.
Where you heard for all these comments?
Well, yeah, like I mean, like one of the ones early on was like it was a female comedian.
Oh, so this isn't just the movie guy?
No. It's like earlier in the day. This is like one of the first ones of the day. Like she had like a guy come up from the audience and like she was basically trying to make him feel really uncomfortable. But the guy was coming out with some really funny stuff. So I shouted out, "Is this guy going to get his own 10 minutes next?" And everyone laughed at that. And it was like,
As long as everyone laughs, then it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like you didn't say
It wasn't like-
and all you heard was
I wasn't like saying she was shit because she was actually quite funny. Like it was like, you know, just man, that guy's actually pretty decent.
I suppose that's always the danger at the fringe. You're bringing like somebody up from the audience who is also a performer, most probably.
Yeah.
yeah.
Who's just waiting for the big break.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Sounds like a fun.
It was good. It was
Fun
really
time.
good. Thank you, Craig Balnave, for asking me to go.
Aww.
Lovely.
Was it this week that me and you went and seen friend of the podcast, Jenny Young? That's her name now.
Well, yeah, it
We
was,
went to watch her
it was last
improv group.
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And a bar called Steampunk. They're there every Tuesday.
So like I remember it's something to do with like someone's pants or something. I can't remember the name of it. Laurie's travelling pants, abandoned pants.
Yeah, and it's every Tuesday, and it's free entry in Steampunk. So if you want to check out some comedy, it's like it's
If you're
pretty
in
much
Glasgow-
watching people do Whose Lines It Anyway.
Yeah,
It's kinda-
you're in
it's the kind
Glasgow,
of thing.
like and even if you don't know Jenny Young, like she is a good laugh.
Yeah.
You will have a good time.
Yeah, there was like we were there. There was it wasn't packed, but there was everybody there. They were having a good time, good laugh and that. Yeah, check it out.
Do you guys agree that the Steampunk Cafe is not really that steampunky at all?
It's not
That was a
really
pleasant
steampunky, but like,
surprise.
it is a nice pub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quite
I think people will get put off because like
Fine,
but you go down and it's just like a kind of nice kind of
Slightly old fashioned,
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
I quite liked it. It was just, I was like, man, this has got a lot of potential.
Lots of nice mirrors. Lots of mirrors.
Is that why you liked it? You could see yourself
Everywhere.
with several
Yeah.
angles.
Yup, exactly.
And then what did we do this week? Oh, we went to Cosmopol, didn't we? For our friend's birthday.
So we did, yeah.
You didn't get a chance to sing.
Didn't get a
unfortunately.
chance to sing.
I feel really bad with that. Like I told him I was going to go and then I fell asleep on the couch.
Ah.
Sorry, Casper.
Yeah, we put in a lot of requests. Didn't get a chance. Got
What happened? Like, just
Dunno,
you were
must-
totally just
must be
ignored,
busy.
overlooked?
I guess so.
Bunch of bullshit.
Tommy made friends with the compere though because he was,
That was awesome.
kept playing wrestling music.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy was like, "Whoa, big show!"
No, that was it. Like when he during you'd have folks singing and like Casper, like the birthday boy Casper, him and our friend Steven sung Danger High Voltage, and it was
That's a classic.
it
I've done
got
that
it
before,
got
that's-
it was a big rouser. Everybody was loving that, and in between songs he would play like wrestling themes. Like for Last Orders, he played the Undertaker's theme, which I just thought was great. But I was like, he played the Big Show's theme, and then I went, holy shit, this guy likes wrestling. And I went, man, you like wrestling? Do you want to put the Rock's theme on? He went, I like wrestling. And he showed me his arm, and he had like a ministry tattoo on it. And I was like, wow, man.
That's not just like a Brahma or something. That's a bit of a deeper cut in the ministry. You know?
Yeah.
I believe my words to were, man, we should be friends. And he also he played the E17's All Right,
Good.
and I couldn't believe I lost my
He
shit. when
preceded
came
that by
on.
saying, "This is the greatest song ever
Yeah.
written." Alright.
I lost my shit. I was sober and I was dancing like a
You were-
fucking idiot.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
you
so
were
great.
sober, yeah.
Yeah, because we were working, and it was the first thing I heard when I came. I was like, I need to get up and dance. I never hear this in a club. It was a pleasant surprise.
Was anyone else dancing? Or was it just you?
I think Jenny Young was dancing, and I
It
think
doesn't sound
Stephen
right.
Donnelly
It
was
doesn't sound
dancing.
like seeing Jenny Young.
I know.
It doesn't sound right.
Yeah, but I think there was 2 or 3 folk, but I was like, I literally I couldn't sit down. I needed to. I had to get up and dance.
Those feet could be contained.
Correct. But yeah, by the end of it, me and the DJ had a
Bond.
bond. But yeah, Alan was wanting to sing. Was it?
I want to sing a lot of stuff.
What
Yeah,
was
what
it?
was lined up here?
It was Swede.
Yeah. Hooked on a feeling.
Hooked on a Feeling.
Because of Guardians, obviously.
I felt bad when you asked me to sing that. I was like, don't know, man. And then I had like a couple of drinks. And I'm like, I regret not doing that.
Like, is that part of your news? Like anything to do with Guardians of the Galaxy?
Nah.
Like about the soundtrack more in particular?
No, I know they put it out on Spotify, which I've been listening to a lot. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
What?
They released it on cassette.
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah.
And it's now the #1 album in America.
Oh, just on cassette sales?
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. That's a nice little
That's
market
pretty
thing,
fucking
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Retro, man.
It is really good. Like I went out for a run listening to the Guardians podcast and like the podcast, Guardians playlist, and
Just
like just like it went by in no time.
I'm going to clarify here actually. Like, I don't know if it's just the cassette that made it to #1, but the soundtrack is.
Well, probably a lot of that is off of iTunes downloads and stuff.
You go out for runs?
Yeah, I've talked this from.
He's done it. Yeah. Well, I mean, you talked about it months ago.
Well,
Wait,
yeah, I
so
know
you're training for
I
something?
always say it. Yeah, me and my friends are doing 10k.
Oh, is that not happened yet?
No, not yet. No.
Oh, okay.
That's, I mean, you never brought it up, and I assumed it was over the summer.
Yeah, I was like,
You never brought it up, so I was like, oh, like, does
I was
that
like,
go
he's
well
probably
in
done
the
that.
or something?
So,
Are you doing it for charity?
Yeah.
Which charity?
the Cancer Research UK.
What's your? Is it a link to be able to?
Yeah, I'll put it up closer to the time. Yeah.
When is it then?
It's the 5th of October.
Oh, okay. Right.
Could
So
you
it is this
flash
year.
that link on the screen like right now?
October.
Have
I'll put it
you
up
got
later.
the privilege to do that?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that comes later. That comes later. No, I thought it was a really good night. Had a great time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. Right, movie stuff.
Yeah,
Did
it
you do
was.
anything? Hold on. Did we ask if you did anything?
We never asked. We never
You went to
will.
Cosmopol.
There you go as well.
That was it. That was your entire week.
Yeah, just hung out, you know.
You ceased to exist for the rest of the week.
No, what else did I do? No, tell me what else did I do.
You were like what? I'm not your secretary. He worked. That's what I see him. He went to Cosmopolitan. That's what I see him. The rest of the stuff, I don't know what he was doing.
He was definitely on mobile phone at one point because I did receive a text.
Sure.
So definitely do some of that.
I don't know, just a little hang out.
With who?
Different people. It's funny because I don't think Sean knows.
Oh.
I was hanging out with my girlfriend.
Raptors' first true love story. How
Aw.
exciting.
See, that's why Alec doesn't tell people
I-
stuff.
like,
Because
I-
he
like-
probably is trying
yeah.
to avoid that.
See, the thing is, like, I've known about this for like maybe a week or something. I don't know, maybe like a bit more than that. But, like, I wasn't going to bring it up because I wasn't going to be like that guy. But congratulations, man.
We've got you this watch.
Congratulations! There's a
Yeah.
bit of a Spitfire.
Yeah.
Well done.
Like, she seems really nice. That's cool. She
No, yeah.
seems really
No,
nice.
she's great, yeah. Yeah, when we were at Cosmopol, an old man who's always there, old Nibs.
Oh,
You may know him if you're a karaoke enthusiast in the Glasgow area.
He always sings Ray Charles.
Yeah, he loves it, but he was like, what's your name? And she was like,
Oh, jeez.
Amy. He was like, hey, this one's for Amy. And he sang a song to her. And later on, he was like, he got to me and went, she's gorgeous. And I was like, yeah, I know. And he's like, what happened to you? And I was like, I don't know, she's not noticed yet. And I was like, don't worry about it, mate. It's old Nibs.
Is he a good singer?
He is.
really good.
He is. He sung Georgia and it was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah. He sang 3 little words as well.
Breathtaking.
He does little ad libs and all sorts. Like, he doesn't
Holy
stick to the
shit.
script.
Man, I love like this idea, like Tommy sitting in the crowd with a tear in his eye. This old dude just singing his heart out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was brilliant.
Yeah. Old Nibs. Also, he's called Nibs.
Yeah.
Yes.
No real name, just.
Yeah, it's like Cher.
Yeah, he's like a mythical character. He's like, man, no, do you remember Old Nibs?
Old man Nibs.
Old Man Nibs. We've got Old Man Nibs' house.
So, here's a bit of strange news. Strange casting news you might not expect. They're making a movie about the NWA called Straight Outta Compton. Paul Giamatti has been cast.
As Ice Cube.
Yep, as a young Ice Cube. Straight Outta Compton.
Is that Paul
That's not Paul Giamatti, yeah.
Okay, right, okay.
What does NWA stand for?
Cannot say.
N-word with attitude.
African Americans with attitude. So he's joined the movie as playing the band's manager. So that I kind of thought this might just be kind of like a kind of almost straight to DVD thing, like not
An
that
HBO
big
movie
of a
type thing?
yeah. But if Paul Giamatti's in it, then maybe
Well,
it'll have
well,
some weight behind it.
I don't know, it's HBO though. Yeah, because
Okay.
HBO do a lot of like TV movies. They did,
Well,
like,
it's
Sorry, no, I
always
just
the
said
same.
like an
Yeah.
HBO movie.
It's not
sorry.
actually HBO affiliated.
Alright, no, because HBO do like TV movies. They did that one with Al Pacino was the band manager.
Yeah, well, they also did,
Spectre.
They also did
Phil Spector. That's it.
They also did
Bang
you
the
know,
Candelabra.
that's the one.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, that's gave it a little bit more.
Star power.
Yeah.
Star power.
Yeah,
Is this a Mario game?
Yeah. Paul Giamatti, he's a good actor. Although he does a lot of weird stuff as well. Like, he was also in Shoot 'Em Up, which is hardly,
I love Shoot 'Em Up.
No, yeah, it's great, but
Shoot 'Em Up is fucking great.
And The Illusionist, which was quite balls.
The Illusionist
that's when
is
it came
quite
out at the
cool.
same time as The Prestige,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but I mean, Paul Giamatti's in loads of stuff. I mean, he's in Donnie Brasco.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
It's like, well, actors gotta get paid, I suppose. But yeah, Paul Giamatti's one of those character actors like Stanley Tucci where he can turn up in absolutely ball-tacular shit, and it's like, you're excused.
I dislike the term character actor. Which actor isn't a character actor?
It's more like the idea is to define.
Tom
Tom
Cruise
Cruise is like
not.
a leading man. There you go.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, they're like leading men kind of thing, whereas Paul
Who
Giamatti,
play characters?
they do play
for ugly.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah,
It is.
you do, like, don't be wrong, you get leading men. I mean, like Tom.
Steve Buscemi's a character actor.
Yes.
So that surely, like, there's a little bit like Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks basically play like Tom Cruise and
Yeah.
Tom Hanks in
Clint
the
Eastwood.
movies.
Clint Eastwood
Against-
plays Clint Eastwood
Yeah,
all the time. I would call him a character
I say
actor.
it's good for ugly. That's obviously a joke.
Denzel Washington.
Sam Rockwell's a character actor.
He's handsome as
Yeah,
well.
okay.
Uh,
He's between leading man and character actor, I think.
What about, like, what's his name, man? I want to say Tom Wilkinson, but I don't think that is his name. It's like,
That is
Well,
a
choose
real
that.
person.
yeah, the dude he's in, like, Batman Begins and
That's
stuff
Tom
like that.
Wilkinson.
Yeah, like, would you say he's a character actor, even though, like, he's pretty much always the same
I don't know.
and ugly?
well, like the pristine example is Daniel Day-Lewis is the character actor,
But he's like a leading man.
but only because he has gained such a critical acclaim.
He's also like a
Amazing
fucking
roles.
chameleon.
I think the whole character actor. It's like you remember that it's like that book that we've got in the toilet. What is it?
That Paco Gonzalez gave us.
Yeah, it's like the guy in that thing.
It's the dude. No, it's look, it's that guy or something.
Yeah, but it's like you've got your J.T. Walsh, Steve Buscemi, Paul Giamatti's in it, Phil Seymour
Giovanni
Hoffman's in it,
Ribisi.
Giovanni Ribisi,
Always these little roles.
yeah, Walton Goggins, things like that. Where you're like,
That
oh,
dude-
that guy, yeah, I know him. He's in a bunch of stuff.
That's
a
dude from
support character.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
in Californication.
I just call him Ned Ryerson.
Ned Ryerson, yes.
That's all I know him as. Again, I don't know what his real name is. I don't need to know. But yeah, like I would say, yeah, Paul Giamatti, it's a good shout. I'm trying to think what else he's in. But like Phil Hoffman won a leading man Oscar, but I would say he's a
Chipotle.
Yeah,
Chipotle. Yeah.
That would be more interesting.
But I would never have said Philip Seymour Hoffman is a leading man.
Yeah.
He's more
He
supporting
just, yeah,
cast.
like
or
he
character
would have
actor.
been given another couple of years, man. He was starting to.
But again, it comes down to like, well,
I think that just depends on the size of the movie that he was
Yes.
in. Like, I think definitely smaller character movies. He was never going to star in his
like it was never going to be like.
franchise or whatever.
I don't know, man. Like not like a Mission Impossible or anything
You
like
think
that.
you
Like,
get like a taking
what are you talking about? Philip Seymour Hoffman
No, no,
wasn't Mission
yeah,
Impossible.
but not as Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise was Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I could have seen Philip Seymour Hoffman getting like the lead role in the same way that Tom Wilson does with like the exorcism of Emily Rose and stuff like that. Like those kind of things where like
Yeah, I know.
it's
what
not
you
like
mean.
an action movie, but he is the star. Like,
Yeah, it's
like even like Paul Giamatti actually. He's got, like,
yeah, but it's that whole thing is like they're not going to be the guy that gets the girl, like that leading man kind of status thing.
I don't
It's
know, he was
all-
in The Master and he had Amy Adams.
Yeah, but that was weird, right?
Yeah, it was super weird.
So, but yeah, but Shoot 'Em Up. Yeah, what was so awesome about Shoot 'Em Up is 3/4 of that film has no plot, and then they shoot
They shoot him up.
They shoot 'em up from it, and then they just tie in this way bullshit about
they
kidneys.
shoehorn it right in.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, it's about getting a kidney. It's like, what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't
All I
matter.
remember is that he eats carrots a lot. He stabs the guy with a carrot at one point, and he has a sex scene / gunfight at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah,
He also,
Bellucci.
like, there's like
Awesome.
a given birth / gunfight and everything.
Yep,
man.
yep.
There's a jumping
Mid-air fight.
jumping out of planes
Mhm.
gunfight.
Yeah, that AC/DC blaring. Brilliant.
There was the right name for that movie.
Yeah, I knew what it was.
It's just a cartoon.
Yeah.
It's just a but even that whole carrot thing, that's a whole Bugs Bunny thing.
Yeah, he's supposed to be Bugs
But
Bunny.
yeah, oh fuck, I love Shoot 'Em Up. When was the last time I watched that? I need to watch that soon. But yeah, GMI is awesome, so that's a good bit of news. What else?
They're making a Betty Boop movie.
Who cares?
Oh, okay, alright.
That's
Like-
a bit of a weird.
Is anyone even still alive who fucking knows who that is?
Simon Cowell was making it happen. Just
Whoa.
gets weirder.
Is he gonna get that dog from the one
I don't know.
Britain's
Yeah.
Got Talent to do
So,
it?
Still
yeah.
talking about that dog.
So it's
I
one
like
of
see when that bus goes by me with the poster for that, it depresses me.
Pudsey.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't exist.
Jump through a hoop.
So it's going to be like an animated kind of musical show movie, I guess.
And I'm checked out completely.
Yeah, I mean, who's this for? Who's it for?
It's a very because like I mean a lot of her thing was in what the
50s.
Yeah, the
30s,
50s or so.
30s even.
Yeah, even though like kind of doing a nod and wink of like, oh, I'm a cartoon, but I'm kind of doing dirty stuff.
Yeah.
Where like that's all kids movies are nowadays. Is oh look, we drop an adult joke in there for you for the mums and dads. And I just.
I mean, the last time Betty Boop was about was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. She had a cameo in that.
Yeah.
And even then, it was like, oh, she's really
You're
old.
old.
Remember that? Yeah.
Well, she's in black and white in the actual movie. You're like, all the other characters are in colour. She's in black and white because she is that old.
Yes.
Very, very strange.
I don't know.
She also looks like a right skank.
Well, she was supposed to look provocative, I think it was.
But it's the company that did the Lego movie. I mean, saying the company doesn't really make a difference because that's about the writers that make that good.
I mean, you said Simon Cowell, and I'm like, whatever, but say it was like Phil Lord and
Chris Miller.
yeah, I'm like, oh, they doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, and Chris Pratt's gonna be in it. Yeah, I'm in.
That's Betty
Yeah,
Boop.
yeah,
He can do anything.
yeah.
I
Alright.
don't know, but I don't.
Yeah, Channing Tatum.
That's your.
Channing
That's
Tatum.
your
could be Betty Boop. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in, man. That's fucking interesting.
Paul, how do you feel with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series?
Do you know, I have never seen the first one. I've started to watch it 4 or 5 times and never got to the end.
I hate it. I hate it. I think it's terrible.
McConaughey, however, is in one of the later ones with
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Is it Renee Zellweger?
It's
Is
like
it
okay,
the,
so it's Elwood
the
Graduate.
beginning or something that's called, or Texas Chainsaw
I
Massacre.
think it's the
It's-
third or
She's
fourth
like
one.
the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket. Like I can never remember his name. It's like Arlie
Arlie
Ermey.
Ermey, yeah.
yeah. Like he was in one of them, right? He was in like the
He's-
remake.
He's in
He was
the
in the first remake.
first it was the remake of the first one because they did like a second and a third one, and two of them or one of them was a prequel. One of them was a prequel. It was called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre the remake, and then you had Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, and then there was one that was out like 2 years ago that was
the 3D.
yeah, it was supposed to be a direct sequel from the second one, forgetting the Dennis Hopper Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and it was just apparently shit.
The only one I've seen is that Arlie Ermey one, and it was alright.
I
alright.
Yeah, I quite liked it because I don't really have a lot of love for the first one. So for the Toe Pooper one from the 70s, but I was like, it's okay. It's a Platinum Dunes remake of a horror. It's all right. It's very stylized, but the rest of them I was like, whatever. I watched one of them with my brother, and we just laughed at how funny the folks' accents were in it.
I take it they're making a new one.
Well, I feel like I should clarify why I said I think it's terrible and I hate it, because you can't just kind of say so. Because it's a pretty well regarded horror movie, but like this last half of the movie is just a woman running about screaming.
Screaming, yeah, it's kind of
That's all it is.
How many horror movies are exactly that?
But it's just like I just don't understand how
No
anyone
pacing,
can watch
no
that for
nothing.
enjoyment and being like,
It's-
oh man, such a good time. Look at her running fear of rape and death.
It's
It's
not-
great. I just don't get it.
It's more like I
It's
think.
death and cannibalism, to be fair.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
not
like-
rape and
also,
He's throwing a little rape.
Does it not follow like the tried and tested formula horror where like although so much of it is like this whole oppression of women, like at the end of the movie it's an empowerment thing where like she becomes the victor. Like I don't know how it ends. Like,
Yeah,
Such a
she's the one that
spoilers. The
she
way
doesn't get killed.
No,
Like,
she gets away, but she doesn't kill the guy. But yeah, I think
that is one of the better moments of the film.
Yeah, the thing
Does
is
she get away intact?
when she's like
she,
trying to
yeah, she doesn't like lose a limb or shit. She's covered in blood. She manages to get on the back of a pickup truck, and she's like like that, and he's like swinging his chainsaw about, and that's it. But I
Yeah,
think
that's a good visual image.
Yeah.
I'm just waving the
Freaking out,
chainsaw in the air. Yeah.
the thing about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is it's more like it was the late 70s, and it's more there's a story about it's the like kind of myth about how it was made because it was made on a fucking nothing budget. The actors were going crazy because it was so boiling, and that in itself is a story. But it was like that whole thing of like a bunch of teenagers are traveling across country to do this thing, and they encounter bad people. This was like one of the first movies to do that.
Yeah, it's one of these ones
and it
that kind of
spawned
was released,
the rest of
kind
them. Yeah,
It was middled with sort of based on real events, but
Uh-huh.
maybe not. And
it's like Leatherface. I think is based on the whole. Like when Ed Gein, like one of the first reported serial killers in America, how he like made a bodysuit and stuff like that. They took that idea for Leatherface.
Man, mind that episode of the fucking X-Files that had him in it?
Yeah.
It was good.
So that's why I don't like it. I just don't understand if someone can watch that for a pleasurable activity. But They're making a prequel to it called Leatherface,
They-
where you'll get to learn how Leatherface became Leatherface.
But they already kind of did that.
Well,
So
they're remaking it.
Yeah, it's like we're
Oh, they've done that already? Do we know why it became Leatherface?
We're re-prequeling the prequel. It's like,
His
okay.
family was pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
But I mean, let's be honest here. It's like
Oh, the grandmother's horrible in that
Yeah.
movie.
we're doing a prequel because people will pay
Yeah.
to see this again. Because
It's like, what, let's just run down this list of horror movies. We got Chainsaw Massacre, has that been done in a couple of years? Let's do that.
Yeah, it's the same as like a lot of superhero movies. Like, well, we need to do the origin story again because not everybody remembers who Batman is.
Because like when you hear complaints about like people being like, oh man, don't do like an origin thing again, I don't ever really get that because like I really like origin stories.
No, I know.
But particularly for horror movies, a lot of the fear comes from like not knowing
Yeah.
what this person's all about.
That's what my big, huge, fucking giant problem with Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yeah, like humanizing
It's
Michael
like,
Myers.
you
like,
take away
no.
the fact that he's the bogeyman, and you're like, oh man, he's actually this fucked up kid, and we're going to show you why. I'm like, I don't care about that.
See, yeah, like it's one of these interesting. You can sort of understand where they come to the conclusion because the marketing and longevity of these films comes from the admiration and love of the villains.
Mhm.
That's the iconic characters. Nobody really talks about
The victims.
the victims.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have kind of the rare
Even
exception.
the
of-
survivors. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you have like Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street.
I mean, it's
and-
Sydney from Scream, I guess.
Yeah, you have the kind of very, very rare
Kurt
exceptions.
Russell from the thing.
But yeah, yeah, and his beard. But
Usually it's Freddy and
usually,
Jason,
yeah.
you
So
know.
you can understand where the studio and the group sitting around there, the CEOs go, okay, well, let's make a movie about them because people want to know more about them.
Yeah.
But then
That's the
misunderstand,
point,
yeah, what will make work.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think was. And we've talked about this before. Something I quite like about like the '80s kind of Friday the 30th, Nightmare on Elm Street thing. It progressively became more about, oh man, you're supposed to care about these people because you know you're watching a movie and what if this happened to you? But then it became more about, well, no man, actually I quite like the killer and I want to see how he's going to kill all these people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you watch the
See,
Saw
actually,
franchise. It's
that's-
like, man, I know it's not Shakespeare and it's not terribly brilliant, but I'll watch it because I'm like, I wonder if we're going to fuck that guy up again.
See,
That's gonna be fun.
that's like why I don't like horror movies.
Oh no, I know it's not for
Like,
everybody.
like having movies where like it's filled with people you don't like and then you see them die. Like I know that was my argument for liking Attack the Block is exactly that.
Mhm.
But it's more personal because it's Neds that are dying.
I think it's
Like,
because, I know what you mean.
It's just like I don't care about American teenagers. Like I don't really particularly care, to see them being slashed up or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like that's not a horror movie.
No,
To me, that's just like
No, I completely
It's
understand. No, I understand that, man. But it's the same way, like for example, like when it comes to the action genre, right? I know, like for me, good action movies, like your Die Hards, your Predators, whatever. You've got that, and then I will watch like Steven Seagal in Hard to Kill, and I know that is fucking far removed from like good. It's just I'm like I have a soft spot for that. It's the same as horror movies. It's like The Shining, amazing. Halloween, amazing. And then
But The
then it
Shining
goes-
is a good horror movie.
No, but that's what I mean. Is like it's like for that, it's like no, this is a really good example of how to do the genre really well. But then you go down the ladder to like your Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3s, where I'm like, for fuck's sake, I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a great time watching this, even though I know script-wise it's not great. It looks dated. It could be this. It could be that. But I still have a thing about it where I'm like, I can still appreciate this on a certain level, the same way that I can appreciate watching Hard to Kill, even though it's pretty shit. But I mean, he's in a coma for 7 years, and then 2 days later you can walk. That's it. What the fuck? But it's like, man, I just want to see him fuck people up, man. I'm enjoying this kind of genre for that. But I do know that Die Hard is fucking superb and is a really well-made movie. Same way, that's where I come from with the horror genres. Like, I couldn't go for like Paul is like kind of currently holding a horror movie that I don't like. I know Paul really likes.
Is that the one with Toby Jones?
Yeah.
Is that a horror movie?
But that's what I'm saying is like it's
It's Bavarian Sound Studio
yeah.
for the listeners, by the way.
Yeah, whereas I'm like, I can understand why folk might like that the same way that a lot of folk consider Eraserhead a horror movie. I don't like Eraserhead because I don't know if it's horror movie.
Like I've never seen Razorhead, but is that not like David Lynch or something?
It's one of Lynch's first
Yeah,
movies.
Fuck that. But like that Bavarian Sound Studio one, though, like I thought it was interesting, but like it wasn't scary. It was more again, it was like a behind the scenes of horror movies, and like had a few kind of trippy fuck with your head moments, but like it wasn't done like a horror.
But you get that whole, like, a friend of mine was talking about, we were talking about Terminator, Just it was a good conversation anyway.
Gritty fucking murder.
Yeah, well, no, we were talking about.
Is it
he's
because
like,
of that?
he watched Terminator 1 recently, and he says, "Man, I watched Terminator 1 recently, and I felt a bit dirty because I'm starting to think I prefer that to the second one." It's like, no, I get times like that, man, because Terminator 1 is is a horror film in many ways. It's an unconventional kind of. It's seen more as a kind of, I guess, an action thriller, but it is kind of the same way Silence Lambs, you could argue, is more a horror or is it a psychological thriller. It's like you're just kind of.
A guy gets his face eaten off and someone wears the guy's face. That's a fucking horror.
Again, it's
Like a guy wears a jacket made out of women's skin. That is a horror.
Mhm.
Like there's no two ways about that.
No, I know what you mean, but it's just that way. It's just about how you look at the film and how you appreciate it. It's like, man, you might lump it in one thing, or it could be perceived as something else by someone
Was
else.
that the last horror movie, Silence of the Lambs, to get like nominated for Oscars and stuff?
It won
Yeah,
Oscars.
we did that like maybe a year ago. Like we looked up a bunch of like horror films that got nominated for Oscars, and The Silence of the Lambs is the only one that's ever won like a kind of a legitimate award, I suppose. Like there's a lot that won makeup awards and effect
Yeah,
awards and
yeah.
stuff, but The Silence of the Lambs is the only one which has ever won like
Cool.
best
Well,
picture. Yeah, something that
Well, it was part of only 3 movies that won like best director, actor, actress, screenplay.
that's like. Yeah, we maybe probably talked about that recently-ish, I think, because it might be the same conversation where like Anthony Hopkins is on screen like for 11 minutes or something. It's like crazy tiny, and yet his
Yeah.
part was just so.
And even though I've seen that
iconic,
movie like a couple of times, like, and I know that that's a fact,
you still play up. Yeah.
you still remember so much more of them.
Mhm. No.
Anyway, Marvel, the latest rumor from Marvel is that one of their untitled projects that they've got coming up is something called the Inhumans, which is, I had to look this up, I didn't know what it was. I think it's even less well known than what Guardians of the Galaxy was, but it's about a group.
Getting pretty arrogant. Marvel.
It's about a group of like kind of early humans
Ne'er-do-wells, alright.
who were kind of abducted and experimented on by the race called the Kree, who
Okay,
We've met
they're-
are part of the Marvel creator universe.
have we met them in the movies?
No.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
interesting you said the
or-
Kree because I think I'm sure in Guardians of the Galaxy that name is familiar because I remember.
Like the aliens that guard in the galaxy, they sound familiar. They sound similar to that, but it's not the
You
Kree.
sure?
You may be right. I'm actually going to look up.
Yeah. Because again, Neil McCulloch was our friend, and he doesn't listen to the
Was
podcast,
our
but he's our friend. He was saying that he liked the idea of
Ronan the Accuser.
Ronan the Accuser being it because it opens up so many possibilities. And he said,
Oh, sorry, no, yeah, you're completely right. Ronan the Accuser is a member of the Kree.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
alright, okay.
So yeah, they have
Who are like the wee alien guys?
the Krill.
The
That's what you're
Krill.
thinking of. So yes,
Okay, yeah.
the Kree like kind of take these early humans like millions of years ago and experiment on them and alter the DNA and stuff, and then kind of
They come back as
they just kind of lose interest in them,
subhumans
and they're like, ah,
Futurama.
forget about that. We'll just abandon them because they're not going anywhere, and they're kind of just left as like this discarded. Kind of like what Rocket is like an experiment. They kind of just got finished halfway through and like, I forget about them, and they kind of. They are like empowered, but kind of I don't know, they don't really
think
humans.
of
They're
anything,
really
yeah.
Kree. They're kind of outcasts and misfits.
Mm.
I guess similar to Guardians, but not as kind of light and
Yeah.
funny as the Guardians are.
Yeah.
What
So-
were you saying, Neil? Saying about it?
He was just saying that like you like the fact that Ronan the Accuser's in it because it means they can open up all kinds of like different avenues with people he's associated with, that associate with other folk, and Peter Quill's dad. Just the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy has been made, he was basically saying that there's so many possibilities and there's so many things they can
But
take, different directions they can take that with, which again is excellent.
At the same time, though, like it's also getting to the point where it's more of a shame that Marvel don't own the rights to the X-Men, though, because
Yeah.
the X-Men storylines get pretty fucking mental when aliens get introduced.
Mhm.
Like,
Well,
that would be good to see on film.
I think that we still have the potential. Like the Inhumans seem pretty out there as well. We thought Guardians was pretty out there, but yeah, like Guardians does seem like the door to this whole other side.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something we said that
Yeah.
before it was released.
And then they think that Doctor Strange will be like, you know,
Another kind of-
Tony's the tech side, you know,
Thor, Guardians,
Thor's the
Doctor Strange,
Stacy and all that
Magic.
stuff, yeah. And then apparently Doctor Strange is all, yeah, you know,
Did
mythical
you,
and stuff.
did you read who's seriously campaigning to be Stephen Strange?
Joaquin.
Matthew Modine. You might remember him as the guy who's in Full Metal Jacket. He's also the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Uh,
Who's the Dark Rises?
he's
Police
police chief.
All right, okay.
Yeah, he's nothing major. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not been in a lot of stuff. Like I mean, like he's the main character in Full Metal Jacket. But yeah, he's
I like
Private Joker.
but a lot of names being thrown around for Doctor Strange, like a lot.
Yeah.
Really,
That-
in Marvel news, lots of rumours.
I know. But speaking of Inhumans, the reason that it's been kind of more people are thinking it's actually going to happen is because Vin Diesel can't keep his mouth shut again. On
Vin Diesel.
Facebook again, like making kind of vague references to them. So, and someone else asked him earlier on, like, are you not a bit sad that you've kind of been wasted just by doing a voice of one line? And he's like, well, no, there's no reason I can't do other Marvel movies. Maybe I am doing other Marvel movies as a different character. Who knows?
What was that whole thing? When
Vin
he was,
Diesel is wonderful.
Yeah.
well, just before he was announced for Groot, I think we talked about it, was like, oh, Marvel being on the phone. Wonder what that's about. Just been in Marvel Studios, had a chat, and it's like, yeah, man, you're gonna be inside of Marvel. That's brilliant.
I was listening to like one of the really early episodes of the Giant Bombcast today,
Mhm.
and they were talking quite a lot of Vin Diesel in that, like talking about how even though like he doesn't look the type, he's actually like a massive Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, he's
He's a big nerd and loves video games and loves comics. So it's like, you know, this is genuine excitement from that guy, which is
Yeah,
why he can't
yeah.
get this very short.
On to the sad news of the week, because it was a pretty sad week. First of all, Lauren Bacall died.
Mhm.
Paul, you know a bit more about her than I do. I'll lay in a mouthful of chocolate right now, so we'll have to wait.
You're away. She's a very kind of famous screen actress of the golden age of cinema. Humphrey Bogart's wife at like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Made her screen debut at 19 in To Have and Not Have,
Mhm.
opposite Humphrey. Like lots of kind of famous scenes from that, and kind of for the debut acting job did like really incredible like screen presence. Just kind of had like this crazy kind of I'm not even going to try because we all know my accents are terrible, but a very kind of smouldering, very sexy kind of voice. Really like at a time when you couldn't like show boobs or whatever else, that voice did more than enough for a generation of men.
Can we get that on a T-shirt? Was that the caption of the poster?
Yup. And yeah, she just like rose to stardom right there and then. And she seemed to just live like this pretty incredible life. Did like a lot of great acting work. She, Humphrey Bogart died in 47, maybe. Maybe you can't know.
Sorry, died in was it?
Oh wait, no, maybe he was 47 when he died. I don't know.
I was gonna say he didn't die in 1947.
He died when he was quite young.
Yeah, I think it was in the late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, like Lauren, it was I don't know, it was something like that. But yeah, like him and Lauren Bacall was a total. He's really old and she's really young, and this is a bit weird, right? You've never seen this in a Hollywood golden couple.
But you know, seemed to be more than a match for him, and she knew loads of like very famous people, and seemed to just enjoy living life. And she kind of claimed that like becoming a mother kind of led to being a mother and getting older led to a real downfall in her career. Just people stopped offering her parts from everyone else, but she continued to work even up to like her most recent thing was a voice and acting in Family Guy, which like unsurprisingly, Seth MacFarlane's a giant fan of all old Hollywood type things, and he loves that kind of classic glitzy showbiz.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise that he would have I'm sure treated her very well. But she died last Tuesday, was it? I think, or it was announced last Tuesday. She maybe died on the Sunday, and it seemed to just kind of be unfortunate. Heart attack, stroke, I think, massive stroke. Just like a real shame, kind of one of these really kind of very important personas of kind of early Hollywood. It's a shame.
And just to tell you that Robin Williams also died earlier on this week.
Yeah.
Was that not more than a week ago?
It was hours after the
it was
podcast.
the night we recorded the podcast. Yeah.
Because I remember you saying, "Oh man, Rob Williams died." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Really unbelievable. I thought I used to when I was a kid, all my favourite movies were Robin Williams movies.
That's like before I was really into films, or like before I knew what actors were as a kind of like a quantifiable good and bad actors. Robin Williams was the best actor in the world.
He was like Jim Carrey was a bit more edgy, and he was like when I was really young, he's like who I wanted to be. Like I just thought it was like Jumanji, Aladdin, Jack,
Flubber.
yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire, obviously, yeah. Hook was I loved Hook when I was a kid, yeah.
See, that's what
all these movies, I thought he was the funniest guy.
Yeah.
But
it's just even the details of his death, which is
that's
so
what makes it extra sad because they always say the sad clown who's the thing, but you just never really think about it.
Yeah, a lot of issues, and it was just a shame how he went. I mean, me and a couple of friends were talking about this as well, like how I think you were there, Paco, and we were talking about how like it's always tragic like when someone that you really admire and respect their work dies. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman died, and I was like, I'm just genuinely like, fuck that shit. I'm not gonna get to see any more of his films. But I was like, the difference with Robin Williams is like he was part of my childhood, like growing up and what like he was an actor, a comedy actor, like you said, Alan, who was like just before Jim Carrey kind of became big. You had like Mrs. Doubtfire. I even really enjoyed Popeye, even though I know it's not great now. And even
Patch Adams, I love that.
Yeah, but it's that way. He kind of transcended the fact he started off as this comic, and then he was doing like awesome stuff, like serious acting, like Awakenings, Good Will Hunting, which he won the Oscar. I mean,
One Hour Photo was excellent.
One Hour Photo, Insomnia.
Insomnia was
We
really good,
definitely didn't talk about this last week. Because I think
No.
exactly
Me and you.
Oh, we were talking.
We were talking about this in the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like,
Like
yes.
the conversation went exactly like this. Which
Just like I got the text like I was in the middle of playing like an episode of The Walking Dead, and then like someone texted me like, "Oh, Ron Williams just died," and I was like, "Well, that's enough Walking Dead for the night. I'm not really in the mood to play this anymore."
Like, I got that like, just as I was about to go to bed. I was like, well, that's a fucking bummer.
Yep.
But like, as much as like I do love like a lot of these comedies and stuff, like the moment for me that will always just stand out. So one of my favourite bits in movie history is Good Will Hunting. That speech.
When he's talking to his wife,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Like his performance from start to finish in that film, and like Insomnia and One Hour Photo as well. It's like for
Dead
somebody
Post
who's
Society.
like,
so many
course,
quotes, so many great lines in Dead Post Society coming out recently, and like
for someone who's like a fucking world-renowned comedian, it was always his more serious roles that stuck with me.
yeah, he just had this great sincerity to him, like but he was like a really kind of trustworthy presence and just a really warm presence when he's on screen.
Well, except for One Hour Photo when he was a
But I think that was a total. That was. I mean, Good Will Hunting. He was like, yeah, he can act. There's an Oscar, and whatever. But it was just like he's going to go completely, like the lovable character like in Hook or Mrs. Doubtfire to just creepy and horrible. And Insomnia. I'll awful talk about One Hour Photo. As I was remember him being at his creepiest. But like Insomnia, I was blown away by that performance. I was like, this is the guy who. Many times I would stick on to laugh at, and he couldn't be further from that. And just an incredible performer, and it was such a tragedy. It was a sad time. And like you said, social media was flooded with tributes.
Yeah,
And
I've been on Facebook for a long time. I've been on the internet for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen that universal kind of like reach for someone and just outpouring of like love and respect and admiration for somebody.
Yeah, like that's all been like for me anyway. That's been tainted by hearing about the fucking dickheads, like just getting on at his daughter.
Yeah.
Like she's had to retreat from social media because of all these fucking complaints. And
So
then like so many other like Christian factions, like telling her that he's burning in hell because he committed suicide. And
yeah, it's just all this bullshit. But that's the problem with the
fucking
internet.
let it lie, man.
Yeah, that's the problem with the internet when you put yourself out there and it's I mean. It's just saying like you want to offer this kind of support and you want to put a tribute out there and it's fine, but then it's just like if it was me, I'm like, man, if I did that, I don't want to read what anybody else says because it's like you said, it's that whole thing. I don't want it tainted because there's always going to be twats and like just narrow-minded fucking morons out there that are going to hit out with something just because they want attention or they have to have their say.
The tweet that Zelda put out was actually really fucking nice.
No doubt, man. No doubt.
That's actually like talking about Vin Diesel, but obviously Robin Williams is this big, massive geek as well.
Yeah.
Just named his daughter Zelda.
Okay, there's also like man, I'm really getting deja vu. It feels like we've talked about. Okay, there's a new Zelda game coming out for the Wii U. Later on next year, and now like loads and loads of Zelda fans are petitioning to get like Robin Williams put into that game. So now that's just pretty fucking awesome.
Really cool. Like the thing that I think I shared this online as well. It nearly brought a tear in my eye because I just thought it just kind of showed how great a person Robin Williams was, and it was the story about how him and Christopher Reeve were really best friends, and after Christopher Reeve's accident, he was kind of lying in the hospital, and he just didn't know his life was over, like he was fighting and all that, and he just was at the absolute bottom, and he says, yeah, I was doing that, and then next thing I know, a guy walks in a doctor's uniform and speaks in a Russian accent saying that they need to do an anal probe on him. And he's like, it was my good friend Robin Williams and he came to visit me and it really cheered me up and it was really life-affirming. I'm like, man, I mean, even now I'm like, man, that is fucking, I love hearing that. It's like, that restores faith in humanity.
You see like Conan O'Brien and Jimmy Fallon as well doing their tributes, so you got to cry when you watch that. Like, Conan O'Brien was saying a story like, when he got that whole thing with him kind of getting fired from Tonight Show and and all that horrible stuff that happened, and he was like really down about it for a long time. He said he only met Robin Williams a handful of times, like working with him, like kind of show busy stuff. And like one day he got like a package delivered to his house, and it was like this bicycle because he knew that Conan liked to ride his bike, and he said it was this ridiculous like green and orange bike with like shamrocks painted on it, and it was really over the top and silly looking. And so Conan O'Brien like phoned him and he was like I just got this package from you, like I'm really overwhelmed. And Ron was just like, so does it look ridiculous? Like, do you look like an idiot when you're riding it? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, good. Like, just that kind of sense of, just knowing how to make someone feel better by just being silly.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a dark time.
Yeah.
Let's watch Robin Williams movie.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them.
Yeah, there's loads of them, yeah.
I immediately want to watch Mrs. Doubtfire after I watch this. Like, man, I want to make him make me laugh in this really horrible time where I'm mourning his death.
So Paul, there we want.
Yeah, since we're already there, let's take this journey deeper. Holy moly, like, it sounds silly to say, Paul Thomas Anderson is a pretty fucking incredible director.
Yep.
That man is just so good with a camera.
Mm-hmm.
He is,
What else has he done? He's done The Valley Evil?
Magnolia, he's
No,
done
no.
The Master,
Master,
Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights.
Was it Paul Haggis that done Valley Evil?
Yes. And he also did Magnolia.
And Mortal Kombat.
Yep, yes.
Yeah, that's
A bit Horizon as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, anyway.
I don't know. I mean, presumably he filmed it on location or kind of deep South America.
In the past.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah, just travel backwards. I had to transpose it all into colour to make it all work okay. But it just looks so good. It's just absolutely wonderful. Daniel Day-Lewis is just this phenom of acting, of screen. Yeah. He's just absolutely brilliant. His voice is so odd in that film. It really stands out and constantly kind of scratches, but in this really brilliant way. Paul Dano, some people kind of seem to have turned against him a bit in recent years. Of kind of, he always does the same thing.
I think he's a wee bit samey,
but I think like he does it very, very well. And that just the entire film kind of being the drama being based over like whether or not everything would have gone better if the oil rig had been blessed properly or not is such a brilliant spark and just such a great dynamic of kind of progress against religion and superstition against fact and science and capitalism
he's like
and greed and
he's like a horrible person.
Yeah,
but he's right all the time. And you're like, well, yeah. These people are all idiots, and I'm kind of on your side, but you're so horrible.
Yeah, he's like uses that the way he uses his son, to help him, and it's like
and then the demonization of the son when he becomes no use to him anymore.
Correct.
Do you know what's one thing that I wish, like I want to watch it again because I remember thinking that it looked great and there was like really well written dialogue and great iconic lines and stuff, and Daniel Day-Lewis was really good in it. I also thought it was a bit too long. But also, one of my problems with it was when I was watching it, this is just a product of like watching too many films. Paul Dano plays twins.
Yeah.
And for all of it, I was like, oh, well, eventually it's going to be like some sort of twist and he's going to be the same person or something like that. There's something weird's going to happen, it's going to be like a twist. And it's not, it's just that he actually just plays twins. And so I was constantly expecting the rug to be pulled out from under me. It's just a straight story. There's nothing I would like to watch it without that kind of expectation.
Do you know with it, Eli, like the main, I suppose, twin, the religious one, he was recast as Paul Dano after his first part as Paul, who's the one who turns up and kind of offers, hey, come and see the land. They had somebody else lined up, but Thomas Anderson liked Paul Dano's, and I think maybe something had gone wrong with the other guy, so it was like, well, let's just make you twins. So that was all kind of written very late in the process.
Because you never see them together as well, I always thought, something's not right there.
I mean, it's adapted from a really, really old book. I think it's just called Oil, and I always remember
with an exclamation mark.
And the author is Upton Sinclair, which is such an old-timey American name. But yeah, that's one thing I love about it. It's like an old kind of sweeping American epic in the sense that it is a long movie, but it charts like this guy's, I don't want to say his rise and fall, it's just more like this guy's journey, and it's, like you said, it's just fucking great from start to finish. It is a fucking ending, man. It's such a good ending. You're just like, fuck. What?
There's, I remember it seemed like his, I don't know, interest, obsession, not obsession, that's too strong, but his interest in like the use of repetition in a film, of like whether dialogue or like even within a scene of just there's the two moments where Daniel Day-Lewis has to join the community, to join the church, and like Paul Dano really puts him through the ringer and like slapping him, and then right towards the end is when it's flipped, and Paul Dano has to like, oh, I'm wrong and God's a fake and da. And just the way that those scenes are stretched out, just at breaking point, it's
There's like that one line that always makes me think of you, Paco.
Well,
Which is sometimes I look at people and I see nothing but light.
man, that
And I kind of mentioned way back, like the moment that really grabbed me was the oil being tapped for the first time and it then eventually catching fire and running like all through the night, and just how brilliant that all looked and how just it was such
a grand movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And within a lot of and like there's not huge fight scenes and not huge gunfire and not like
it's a very
going on.
Old
just proper
movie. Yeah, it's like even the way it's filmed, like this is the way it's filmed. It takes its time. It's stretched out. There's a lot of chatting. There's a lot of folk not doing anything, but there's still so much in there to keep you absolutely invested in that world and the story.
No, I really liked it.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping to, because Anderson's got another film coming out, or a new film coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix, and I think it's Josh Brolin.
So I'm going to try and hopefully.
Yeah,
run through
I can't remember. I think they're like detectives. I know it's at the 70s, but I can't remember the name. But all I know, but it's like Paul Thomas Anderson's got a movie coming. I was like, I'm in.
That's exactly.
I mean,
he's a lot younger. Like, actually, how old is that picture? It's always really weird. Like, whenever I see directors, it's just they don't. Like, for some reason in my mind, like every director is like fucking 80 years old.
Inherent Vice.
Yeah.
He's in a relationship with somebody really good, isn't he?
I don't know.
Are you thinking of the other Paul Anderson who's in a relationship with Mia Jovovich?
No, it's definitely Paul Thomas Anderson.
He also said somebody good.
Oh, burn on you, Jovovich.
Oh, do you know what? A friend of mine was saying, "Oh man, I just got terrible news this week," and I says, "What? You alright?" And he says, "No man, like I really love Jennifer Lawrence, and heard she might be seeing Chris Martin, and I fucking hate that." I was like, "Why you hate she's seeing somebody? Like you had a chance?" And he's like, "No, it's fucking Chris fucking Martin."
I mean,
and I was like,
if that's true, good for him though.
I was like, man, but the way he was talking about it, I was like, "You're right, man. He doesn't deserve her. She's a class act, and she's fucking great, man. He looks like a boning shit."
I think I know who Chris Martin is.
Lead singer Coldplay.
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson in a relationship with Maya Rudolph.
Oh,
holy shit!
Yeah.
I don't know who that is either.
She was in Bridesmaids.
She's like an SNL on mainstay.
As who?
As the bride.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Funny lady. Alright, let's get into
reviews.
reviews.
Stars.
Yeah.
Let's get into reviews of new movies that didn't come out 3 years ago. Am I on my own thinking that There We Blood isn't as good as No Country for Old Men?
I've only watched No Country for Old Men the once, but I really liked that. And that, like, almost just because it's a Coen Brothers film, it sort of edges it for me.
Yeah.
Both those movies are fucking great. Yeah, and very much. I remember No Country for Old Men won Best Picture, and I was like, I love the fact the Coens won it, but I would have picked There Will Be Blood.
I think that No Country for Old Men is an excellent film for the most part, but I don't really like the ending. Like, I think it all kind of falls apart and loses a lot of what made it good towards the end, because like Javier Bardem and is it Woody Harrelson?
Josh Brolin. Well, Woody Harrelson did it,
yeah. Like they all they seem so fucking threatening and stuff during the movie, but at the end they just.
I don't know. I like the way it kind of just fizzles out. It makes it seem more real to me.
But again, it's based on
I love like every scene where Javier Bardem is like anywhere.
Yeah.
Like when he's talking to that shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper doesn't
so
know
tense,
that we've seen what he's done. You're just like, oh, you're in fucking danger.
And then like when the shopkeeper maybe gets a wee bit lippy with him, you're like, don't do that.
Like even like when Tommy Lee Jones turns up at that apartment and he's in there, you're like, you're in fucking danger. Like
when Josh Brolin's hiding in the motel room as well.
But I think that the thing with No Country for Old Men was, I mean, it's a Coen Brothers movie. But Jesus, it's it shows that they can make really dark horrible.
But that's not new for them though.
Yeah,
Because that's like, remember a couple of years back I watched Blood Simple,
yeah.
and like that's after watching No Country for Old Men, and I was like, man, Blood Simple is so similar.
Yeah, suddenly I
Like,
see
yeah,
this
it's like-
other side to
yeah.
them.
But yeah,
Like, and it's still really like it starts off kind of boring, but then like by the end of it, there's just so many threads, it's all tangled, and it's like really fucking good. You get like totally invested in it.
I
Like,
think if Blood Simple I think, was one of their.
I think
in their
I
first
think
movie.
it was the first
So
movie.
you've had that, but then from then to No Country for Old Men, you've got like Hudsucker Proxy, Big
Well,
Lebowski.
Barton Fink is also pretty fucking dark.
But again, it's
still
got
got-
that,
it's
got
got
that
the-
kind of
it's got the
comedy
core
laced
comedy
through
in
it, yeah. Whereas No Country for Old Men, I was like, I think I laughed at all at that. I was like, oh god, it's like impending threat all the way through.
Have you seen Blood Simple?
No.
Like, if you can get, look, I used to own it, but I can't remember the last time I saw the DVD. If I can find it,
Probably on Netflix. Quite a few
Probably.
Coen Brothers films are on.
They have a lot. They always have more than I think they do.
Yeah.
if you can get a hold of it, like I think you would probably like it.
Yeah. So do you guys want to talk about this? No, I'll talk about Hector and Search for Happiness since I'm the only one that saw that, and it won't take very long. It's the new Simon Pegg movie.
Without Edgar Wright.
without Edgar
Let's
Wright,
stress that
yeah,
up
yeah.
front.
It's I kind of described it as like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, except without any of the fantasy fun elements of it.
Oh, fun is an interesting word to use.
Yeah, he plays a psychiatrist who tells himself that he wants to find out what makes people happy, so that he can treat his patients better by finding out things that make people happy. Then he can tell his patients how to be more happy. So he goes in this.
Pretty sure that's the way it works.
He goes on this journey across like all these nice places and tries to take a little journal about what happiness is.
Didn't he
It's like-
study it because that stuff's already documented?
So like,
He was the one who did it.
so
Is that what it is?
it's actually because he's unhappy and wants to make himself happy. It's
No,
not-
I mean he's wearing a mask.
So it's not very good. I thought it was pretty bad actually. It kind of seems like the filmmakers. A lot of people have said it's like a man version of Eat, Pray, Love, but I've never seen Eat, Pray, Love. But it's just kind of, let's go to this beautiful place and have some very kind of, full philosophical like musings on happiness and the state of being and humanity and all that sort of thing. It's just it's very
You're sounding pretty down on that, but like done right, that could be interesting.
done right. I thought Walter Mitty was really good. Walter Mitty
Philosophical versus faux philosophical.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Like this all seemed like a child's idea of like.
Well, like before
Yeah,
midnight,
your teenagers.
they
smoking
have
first
conversations
blunt.
like that and they're interesting, but from what you sound it, you're
Yeah,
like,
this is like it kind of. I mean, he's like I think Simon Pegg's miscast in this because I usually like Simon Pegg and he's usually good at playing the kind of the everyman, the lovable kind of dopey, geeky, oafy kind of guy, right? And in the right hands, like in The World's End, he plays a dislikable arsehole, but he does it like it's Edgar Wright doing it, so it's still funny and it has a bit of an edge to it, and it's done right. In this, he just plays just a dislikable guy. Like he's selfish, so he lies to himself and to his patients about his reason for going on this trip. But within days of like arriving in China, he has an affair, like he's cheating on his wife or his girlfriend or whatever, and that's just okay. Everyone seems alright with that. Yeah, and he's
just like, oh, affairs don't make me happy. Ah, well.
Is it one of those things where it's like, man, they're trying to show that he's. You're trying to sit there. Like, you need to sympathise with his character because he's got a lot of issues. Where you're like, no, man, you're just not doing this.
Does
right.
he go through an arc where at the end of it you're like, oh, you're a nicer person for all this, you're happier, you've
Well,
kind of reached that.
No one. If you really want to see this, maybe stop listening for a few minutes. But in the end, it's like, oh, what really makes him happy is his girlfriend. And you're like,
Oh, fuck off.
at no point in the movie does it like
Lead to that,
does it give you any indication that they have like a relationship that's happy? Like it doesn't. She's like a background character for so much of it. She'll Skype him every now and again, and he'll like think back and kind of like complain about the stuff she does with him and like. But then at the end, it's like, oh no, actually now that I've had some affairs and stuff, and I've tried to reconnect with an old flame who's kind of shot me down, I'll just go back to my old girlfriend who I realised, oh yeah, I actually love her.
What
But at no point
is it's better just to make do.
yeah,
Is it
and-
Rose?
Never try.
When the fuck is humanity going to move away from this notion that like people can't be like happy and fulfilled without fucking someone else in their life?
Well,
Like, why-
well, that in itself isn't the problem. It isn't the problem that, like, oh, to be happy you need to have someone else. It's the fact that this relationship is not like portrayed as being meaningful in the slightest. Like
Is
you don't.
Rosamund Pike, that's who plays his missus, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Is she like a lovely person? Is she like is
Who knows? She's hardly in it. She's not characterized at all.
so this is all from his point of view.
Mostly, yeah, mostly.
So you don't see the fact that like he complains about all this shit. That it turns out now she's actually she doesn't do any of that at all. Is it just?
No, you
it's all in his head?
hardly see any of her. It's just him kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just for being the central crux of the movie, being that it's about him reconnecting with the woman he supposedly loves. They spend almost no time like on this relationship. It's more about him,
Dicking around.
yeah, be like taking part in like Chinese festivals and like going to help out at an orphanage in Africa and stuff. And
Well, that's actually that's alright.
yeah, but then he gets involved in like he gets kidnapped at one point, and it turns into like this really melodramatic thing where he's like overacting. Oh, I think I'm gonna die, and he's really just over the top, and it's like this seems like a different movie from what I was watching 5 minutes ago, and then it cuts again to like when he's in LA, and he's it's very mismatched and jumbly, and it does a lot of what. The main problem I have is a lot. I think it thinks it's smarter than it is, and I think it thinks it's more sentimental and heartfelt than it is. And it's just kind of very basic.
A lot of
Like,
emptiness.
oh, to be happy, you should give to charity. Oh, you should
Right.
treat people that are nice and stuff.
You did a
Because
really.
there's no one answer.
You've done a really good job of. I didn't really want to see it anyway, but that was a great description of. I will never watch that film.
Yeah, there's no substance to it, and there's also this weird thing throughout where he has like kind of flashbacks and visions to himself as a kid. And and he has like a dog who like went missing, but like again they never expand on that. It's never like, oh, you're secretly unhappy all this time because you lost your dog when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm. I like Paul's version of the story. He has flashbacks of Vietnam when his dog went missing. That's how it all went to shit.
And Jean Reno pops up at one point.
Oh, of course he does.
Jean Reno, Leon,
Of course, good. Yeah.
and so does
Skarsgård.
Stellan Skarsgård's in it. Yeah.
God's sake.
Like he's and who's the one at the end? Tony Collette pops up.
It's a good collection of like.
I know, it's like they're only all those people are in it for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay.
Here's my lesson for you. Here's
Yeah.
my moral. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So
I have
what's the
taught you
Christmas
the
past?
gift of this.
Yeah.
It's got 3 writers, one of which I've never seen a film from before. Another one, Peter Chelsom, who wrote the Hannah Montana movie
Wow.
Shall We Dance in Serendipity.
Oh.
I am out.
Yeah, it's not very good at all.
No.
4 writers actually, fuck.
So don't go and see that.
Yeah, don't see that then.
Deal.
Maybe just don't go and see anything Simon Pegg's in that doesn't. Oh, what am I saying? Star Trek. Sorry, forgive us.
Yeah.
Why does a screenplay ever need 4 writers? Because
It's not very good.
Yeah.
why is that a good idea?
Because I don't know, it's the
That's
studios.
just-
You think if you get to like the
man.
third writer, you're like, maybe we just
Like,
abandon this.
you're not hitting your action beats, so we're going to bring this person that can't
Like-
do that.
3 of the writers that I'm looking at on IMDb just now have all done absolutely fuck all except for this.
Isn't there like there's weird like legality stuff where like
Like, if you have ever had any
Well-
hand on it, you have to be credited. That kind of
well no like I was going to say the opposite where there's something to do with and a lot of times I don't know how much got to be changed over like how much of it's got to be changed but most scripts are kind of rewritten 2 or 3 times by different people.
Yeah.
And like yeah in most cases because not enough has changed the original writer's the only one who's credited or there's loads of like weird dumb
I think that's up to the writer a lot of the time. Like if they think, well, no, like I wrote the first page of the first draft 6 years ago, so I deserve some sort of credit. They have to be given it, but sometimes they can just be like, yeah, whatever.
But it is very much. It's the whole thing of like, right, I've wrote this screenplay, and the studio buys it, then they can do what they want with it. So there's your money.
There's a guy called Jeffrey Lieber who's credited as co-creator at the start of every episode of Lost, and that's because he wrote the pilot version of the show when it was originally like Castaway, the TV show, and there was like no kind of fantastical elements to it. It was just about a plane crash and people surviving on an island. And he wrote the first draft of that. Then they got given to J.J. Abrams, Dane Lindelof, and they turned it into something completely different. Because he wrote that first draft of this different show, he gets co-creator credit for every episode.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
Sam Simon's always the other big one that we like to talk about for The Simpsons, who hasn't worked on the show since '93, but still makes a nice bundle.
Yeah.
Like I suppose like they must be getting money off that. I would assume then.
Yeah.
At
That's
some,
why you fight for it.
like at some point you gotta wonder like why would you want your name attached to something you've not actually really done? Like, why?
For the money.
For that paper, mate. For that paper.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are aware of this, but Hollywood has some unscrupulous people in it.
Yeah, it's a pretty horrible place with a lot of greed going on.
Anyway, let's talk about the Expendables 3. Well, let's have you guys talk about the Expendables 3. I've not seen it.
It was shit.
So I heard, coming from him as well, Tommy Bass, who is like
Okay.
number one
Expendables
Expendables
guy.
fan.
I'm gonna try.
Let's ask Alan a question, right? Alan, what is the appeal of the Expendables as a franchise?
Like dumb action and like all your old favourite action movie heroes, like
Good two bullet points.
Yeah.
One of which is like the main reason why this one doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be a franchise about all your beloved old action
Yeah,
heroes.
that is
put together.
the one thing about the movie, right?
But,
Being
in this
pals,
one,
shooting bad guys.
in this one, they spend most of the movie focused on 4 young people who I
Faceless,
didn't know.
no personality,
Uh-huh.
no nothing.
Like you care about them so little that I can only tell you the name of one of them, and it's the woman. And the only reason I know her name is because Antonio Banderas sleazes on her, and like he says,
I know the
Like,
woman,
I
the
don't know.
actress, only because she's an MMA star.
Yeah.
That's one reason
"See,
I know
is it
this.
that Gina Carano?
It's not
No,
Gina
no, it's
Carano.
Ronda Rousey. She's much bigger than Gina Carano.
But yeah, that was it. Like, I mean, I remember when the Expendables 1 came out, and I was like, oh, fucking, this is like brilliant. I cannot wait, and I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the second one. It's like, yeah, the dialogue's not great, but that's not what it's about. It's about just having a good time. This is fun. The Expendables 3. Imagine, if you will, there was a 4th Indiana Jones movie. Now imagine that, right? And it's sullied.
I think that it's unfair.
And
to
it's
compare
sullied.
like Expendables was never as good as
And
Indiana Jones.
no, right. It's imagine there's a legacy of movies that you really enjoy. And I say legacy, and there's only 2 Expendables movies. But imagine
They were both
Imagine-
balls.
No,
Like,
no,
they were
they're
all
good.
right. They were
No,
fun, but
they
they
were
are not good.
They were
movies.
good in the spirit of what they were wanting to do.
Are you mad?
No, but you know what I mean. Again, it was like they were good and they delivered exactly what I wanted from the concept of the Expendables 1 and 2. Right? But the third one, my God, it's like it just forgets what it was in the first place. It's like, right, hire loads of people to the point where it's so bloody cluttered, and we're going to hire this director, and we're going to have all this. It's just so. There's so much talking in it. It's like it's 40 minutes too long.
Laura literally fell asleep during it.
At one point,
Yeah, she kind of gave me the rundown. She made it sound really. I was gonna go and see it anyway. She was like, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's no.
exactly.
that's what I would say.
Like, see,
Like if you like the first 2, don't watch the third one. It will sully it for you.
In like the opening action sequence, Jason Statham is like doing his usual knife stuff. He's showing about that. Like he goes to stab a guy, but like it pushes him behind a box first and stabs him.
That's
You're
like,
like, that is now set the tone for the whole. That's
the 12,
that's the level of 12A we're getting.
Yeah, so I remember seeing when like Expendables 3, there's gonna be all these fucking people. Way, I'm really super invested. And it was like it's 12A, and then you see the posters and they're like some kind of stupid fucking family portrait. They're like, why are they not looking like cool? Like they've just shot a bunch of folk. So this is Expendables. That's like a fucking 3 Men and a Baby remake or some stupid shit. Everybody's smiling and hugging. I was like, there's something wrong here. And then you watch it and it does suffer. Action scenes are terrible.
Plot's shite.
Plot's not great, but I mean,
shite.
it's an Expendables plot, you know what I mean? But
that's like there's something which I was thinking about, specifically like the number of people who are in this one,
Yeah.
where like looking back to, and especially the first one, you're kind of defending the first and second was being quite good, but the first one especially was such a nicely tight, like every person they cast there, they found a reason for them to be there. They like paired everybody up and had like the set fight scenes where like, oh,
that's correct.
Dolph Lundgren and Jet Li, they're going to have tension and they're going to fight, and Lundgren's going to be a
Randy
drug addict.
Couture's going to take out Steve Austin, and Teddy Cruz has that shotgun.
Yeah, they gave everybody a moment. They kind of gave everybody, even if it's the most basic kind of very.
It's all, yeah.
We're going to give you a scene. We're going to give you a moment. People are going to come out and be like, "Oh yeah, Jason Statham like burst that basketball with the knife, and it was really awesome." In this, it's just so cluttered, and it's got to the point where it's just names for the sake of names.
Yeah, but like also, like no one does anything.
Yeah,
even the new guys, they have like a. It almost feels like Mass Effect 2 for a bit of it, like in a bad way though, not in a good way. Where it's like it's scene after scene of like Stallone has disbanded the Expendables. He doesn't want all the old guys who we're actually there to see because he doesn't want them there because he cares about them too much. So he goes and gets Expendables. He gets people who won't give a shit
Like
about
young
sitting in the
kids.
battle. So it's these young kids. He goes like one scene he meets up with
15
like
minutes of
yeah,
just going
like-
around the world.
yeah, he
him
meets
and
up with these
Kelsey
guys. He's
Grammer.
like, you know, like, oh, this is this guy. Like, we were trying to recruit him for our suicide mission. And they're like, oh, this is like, we're trying to recruit this guy for our suicide mission. So it's like one guy's like climbing like Tom Cruise at some MI2. And it's like, oh, this is the tech whiz guy. Like, you're probably going to see a lot of him because it's like 2014 and like gadgets and shit are a big part of everything now.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like he spends most of his free time climbing a lift shaft.
Yeah.
That was like, there was like talking about tech guy. There was one. I mean, there are moments in it that I kind of like as little kind of. I liked when he had the new crew and he was like, right, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in and shoot everything. And they kind of looked at it more like, no, that's not what we do it anymore. You know, you use computers and the internet and we can just shut everything down. And I like that's kind of a weird little generational nod.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, then within the movie, that's not what I want because all I want is from an Expendables movie is
Yeah.
I don't want something smarter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They spend so much time setting these new guys up, and then the new guys get kidnapped, and like the old guys have to go get them. So it's like, not only have they wasted so much time with these characters who you don't even know the fucking names of them, they also don't do anything that you don't care about. But they then become the MacGuffin for the ones that you're there to watch the film for to go rescue.
Yeah.
But all those ones also don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like no one, like Dolph Lundgren and Jet Li and
Randy
fucking,
Couture.
yeah, they may as well not have been in the movie. Terry Crews pretty much wasn't in the movie.
That felt like Terry Crews gets injured at the beginning of it after they've saved Wesley Snipes, and it basically felt like we're worried that having two black guys in the movie will be confusing for you, so we need to get rid of one of them. There we go, it's fine.
But after watching the first two Expendables movies, I was like, oh, they're going to get in trouble, and Terry Crews is going to show up and save the day, and that will be awesome. It doesn't happen.
No.
Just doesn't happen. He's
No.
just like he shows up at the end. He's like, yeah,
Everybody's
you
like,
guys
the same
have
shot.
fun.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's like Wesley Snipes does like a kind of decent action sequence when he gets liberated from jail in the opening scene. He doesn't really do anything for the rest of the movie.
No, he doesn't. It's like this.
There's like fucking 15 people in this movie, and Stallone and Statham are the only two that do anything. Like,
So
Yeah.
what about like
Two things.
he's Kelsey Grammer is essentially just Stallone's guide to hiring the new guys.
and Harrison Ford?
Or he's
Bruce Willis
he's
isn't in it.
Bruce Willis,
He's
yeah.
in it, and
He flies a
he's
helicopter
pilot,
badly.
and he's and oh god, Antonio Banderas.
See, I quite liked Antonio Banderas.
Oh,
I quite liked
No,
him.
it's so fucking irritating.
It's such a bad move. Like, why? Like, again, fair enough. Like having like a bit of variety of characters and stuff. Like, not
Maybe that was all it was. Like he had a character, so I was just like, please, more, just give me something.
But like, purposefully, like even if all the characters in the movie found him irritating, why would you write that? If the characters who you're also writing find him irritating, then the fucking audience are going to find him irritating.
Yeah, it feels
And
like
they
they
give
maybe had
him
a.
so much more screen time than anyone else.
Yeah, it's almost like they had a bit of a Jar Jar Binks moment where they thought this will work. It's like
It's so fucking annoying.
yeah, it's like I like Antonio Banderas, and you know you watch like Desperado, El Mariachi, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Assassins, whatever. It's like no, he can do action. It's just please don't have him be a chatterbox and be really annoying. It's like do you know what'd be cool is if you made him like a mute assassin or something like that. Just have him do something. But the problem in this movie is he wouldn't have fucking time because nobody's got time to do shit because most of the time it's just following Stallone on his journey. And like there's some really shit fucking direction as well. There's a shot when Stallone's in Vegas coming down an escalator. It seems like it's been off like 10 fucking minutes.
Alright, okay, I thought like there's a bit like the fucking worst edit I've seen in a while where like Stallone is in the basement of a building and the building like is rigged with explosives and they go off and then it cuts and he is on the roof and the building is still crumbling.
But again, there's a bit where it's like just some shots. It's so badly directed. I mean, as I said, like Stallone directed the first one, and Simon West did the second one. Simon West is like he did like Gone in 60 Seconds and a bunch of other extras. Stallone, yeah, and Patrick Hughes, I think, or is it Patrick Hughes?
I
I think he's done a couple of films, wherever, but nothing like worthy of note. But I'm like, man, I just don't. It just feels like the script is terrible, right? But the direction is worse. This is the kind of thing where I reckon Simon West or whoever looked at it and says, "There's too many people in this. What the fuck can we do? What can we do this?" And not only that, it's like I think we're repeating myself here, but you watch an Expendables movie, and in my head, I was like, would somebody just blow something up already? You spent 40 fucking minutes recruiting these people that I don't care about, and then it's like, oh man, there's a bit more plot here, there's a bit more plot, and I'm like, I don't
And
care.
that's the problem.
Go kill Mel Gibson. That's the plot.
Like, it's. I mean, we're basically going to be talking like it's a film that's full of such weird like contradictions, where it wants to be like a classic 80s film, but it's a 12A rating to allow more people to see it. It wants to be about like the retrospect of all these famous action stars, but it also wants to kind of deal with generational stuff and start kind of, because I mean the first two have always had the jokes of old age and stuff, and that was maybe getting a wee bit old. So then to them, instead of continuing to embrace the ridiculousness of it and try and engage with it seriously by bringing in younger people, that's not what we want. And if we do want it, then you need to make it more interesting. And like there's the other side of where Mel Gibson is like, he is one of the original Expendables, so they sort of have like the kind of 3 generations of the Expendables in the movie, and there's like they bring out like the dog tags of the band of fallen brothers and all of this thing which is sort of about the lifeblood and continuing and what it means to be a soldier, and none of that ever goes anywhere or means anything, and it's just
it's
not what we want at all from the Expendables. So why is it in there in the first place?
It's just filler. It's like when you watch the Expendables 2, it's like, right, okay, Van Damme's the baddie, he's got weapons grade plutonium,
boom,
and he's just killed the latest member who's the youngest guy,
boy.
And you're like, holy fuck, and he did it in the most like diabolical shit way. You're like, man, go fucking kill him, and that is it. That is the plot.
And he's an awesome villain in that.
And he's an awesome villain.
That's like, if the Expendables 3 has any saving grace,
Mel Gibson is actually quite good.
Mel Gibson looks like he is having a fucking ball.
Yeah.
And like he's decent. Like Jeremy Jan's like a YouTube reviewer, the guy highlights as well. But it's like Mel Gibson outacts everyone to the point where it's like when he's on screen, you're like, so that's acting. You know, it's like everyone else just does such a shit job.
There was right towards the end. There was a really good a reaction shot of more or less everybody in a helicopter after the big explosion in the building, and just like having a look at that and being like, what the fuck is wrong with all of you? Like Arnie in the background especially is just kind of giving his best kind of very just, he can't move it. He just says nothing. Everyone else just giving a real furrowed brow, just like thinking stuff.
Even like Expendables 2, like a Van Damme fighting Stallone, you felt like there was a chance Van Damme could win. Like as soon as like Mel Gibson gets in the fight with Stallone, like, you just look at the two of them on screen and you're like, I know how this is ending.
And it's a shit. It's like, well, we need to. I think it's like, oh man, he's just killed the baddie, but he's got 4 seconds to get out of the building. He's in the basement. Oh, he's on the roof now, and it ends in a big epic way. But
oh man, did he grab the rope before the building demolished? Of course he fucking did.
And
a lot of
why put that in there?
Kind of, I mean, editing, directing stuff, but like a lot of very obvious body double, like a lot of decision to do like big, crazy parkour style jumping and gymnastic-y things, where it's like there's no need. One of like the nicest moments of the first Expendables is Stallone running at the very end along to catch the boat taking the ship taking off, and it's like that man is a fucking million years old, but there he is just running, and he's limping, he looks like shit.
Struggling.
But it's him doing it.
That's a staple of the Expendables movies, is like his weird fucking run. He does it in this one as well, but
but just so many moments of just like Wesley Snipes is somebody who just kind of have a lot of him doing impressive jumps, but it's not him. It's clearly not. It's a million miles away.
Even Antonio Banderas as well. Parkour all over the place.
It's like when you watch I watched the first one like the night before going to watch. I was like, oh, okay, put in the first one. And I was so psyched after watching. I was like, I'm gonna put in the second one. It was like 4 in the morning. I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna have to get up for this movie. But just watching all these like little moments where the Expendables movies, like the first two, are like, we know what we are, and we're gonna kind of make fun of it a bit, like that bit at the end of Expendables 1 where it's Eric Roberts has got her hostage, and then it's him and Stallone. Stallone's wounded, and then he takes out the gun, starts shooting, and then this knife comes out of nowhere and hits him in the back. You're like, fuck it, that's great. The bit with Terry Crews' shotgun, that's all great. And then the bit in Expendables 2 where there's a guy, they've just decimated a bunch of folk, and then there's like one more, and 4 of the Expendables just shoot this guy and go rest in pieces. I was like, yay! In Expendables 3, there is none of that. There's a bit where Harrison Ford, who's called Agent Hammer, goes, "Hammer's in the house," and it's cringe-worthy. It's like, I'm not celebrating that. That's shit. There's one good line, and it's when Wesley Snipes says, "I'm the knife before Christmas." And I was like, brilliant, but that's shit.
And then there's 2-3 times where Arnie's talking about, God, the chopper is here, we must get to
the chopper.
Just the most like janky, awkward, like,
but he also like he did the "I lied" line from Commando. He did the "I'll be back." I think he said. He also said "Get out," which is a Terminator line.
He says that in like the first and the second. Like, he says it in the second one. He says like, "I'll be back," and Bruce Willis is like, "You'll be back enough," and he just goes "Yippee-ki-yay," and you're like, "Hey." Whereas in that, at no point you're like, "Hey," you're just like, "Fuck's sake, this is desperate," and you're embarrassing yourselves.
So the only thing they were really missing was Harrison Ford saying, "Get the fuck off my plane."
Yeah.
This belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
Return it stolen. Wait,
Yeah. Great kid, don't be cocky.
Yup, better.
Yeah, I should write this movie.
Like I would say, like one bit in the film that I thought was genuinely pretty cool though is like when that MMA fighter woman, who I've already forgot the name of, her name's Luna in the movie. Like some of the moves she does on the enemies is pretty fucking cool.
That I found like there's a lot of, I mean maybe it's the 12A kind of direction style, like oh we need to kind of be more close cutty.
I hate that. Man.
Yeah,
Like, because what she does doesn't involve blood and stuff though, because it's not like getting guys in chokeholds and stuff. Like it looked good.
See,
she could do what they paid her to do.
Well,
Like,
that's like I prefer just kind of let's just set the camera on her and just watch her do this stuff. We don't need to cut round about her to kind of.
Yeah, because like you said, no blood with that. It's just her like kicking a guy, and I'm like, right. If you want to, if you're going to do a martial arts scene and you want it to look really good, just watch the fucking Raid and copy it. Copy how that's filmed, because that's how you do it. You don't need blood. It's just have her do like a Hurricane Rana and then like snap a guy's shoulder, and you're like, man, that looked cool. Just do it like that. But this close cut fucking edit shit, you're like, man, no, it looks messy and jangly, and oh, we can't do that because kids will go fucking nuts if they see that.
Well, that's disappointing. It's disappointing to go around for movies.
Don't watch it. Honestly, if you like the first two, just do not bother. It's like that imaginary Indiana Jones 4 movie. Just you would never watch it. You know what's silly. Don't do it.
one of the first things I said when the credits rolled was, if I Frankenstein hadn't come out this year, that would possibly be the worst film I've seen.
Don't sound like bad as Frankenstein. Good to know. So next week we have the Daniel Radcliffe rom-com What If, which is out. Deliver Us From Evil, Eric Bana starring in a based on a true story horror movie.
I think is that not out already?
What one?
Deliver Us From Evil.
Not that I know of.
I think it is.
I know it was on the film website I checked, said it was out
It's not been wrong yet.
on Wednesday. Into the Storm is out, which is a new big budget spectacle disaster movie. Lucy is out with Sarah Hansen.
I'm not going to watch that film.
I am going to watch it. I think it looks rubbish.
I
but
have
don't know
made my
something about it.
fucking mind up. It's from Jeremy Jad, and I was like, man, you've convinced me not to watch this film.
There's a Marion Cotillard movie called 2 Days, 1 Night, which is getting some pretty good reviews.
Oh, can I interrupt for 1 second? Have any you guys seem like you probably care about this a little bit? The Dumb and Dumber 2 poster which been released. If you.
I heard about it, but
it's pretty funny.
It's a spoof of the Lucy poster.
Yeah, because the Lucy poster is like some people only use 10% of their brain. Imagine what you could do with 100. The number one says some people only use 10% of your brain. Imagine what you could do with 1. And it's just Harry Lloyd's dumb faces.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem though, man. Is like I would like that if it didn't remind me that the second one's coming, and I'm looking forward to it.
There is also another poster. It's just like the mutt wagon like just flying over a hill, which is pretty good. I don't know. Hopefully it's not terrible.
It will be.
And also SimCity, A Day to Kill For is out, which pretty excited about.
I can watch SimCity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 10 years since the last one. It will be an 18, right?
I'd not looked into it, but I guess it must have to be.
Yeah, because
Rodriguez isn't really the one to kind of bow to. Yeah.
And it's out on Monday.
On a Monday?
It's out on a Monday. And I was like,
we'll have to see it right before the show then.
Yeah. Well, I won't be here, unfortunately.
Oh well.
I'll be in the Highlands.
Someone setting alarm for water then, she's definitely here.
SimCity is an 18.
Yeah, good. So join in next week for all that and more on Raptors in the Kitchen.